the people who are doing what you want to be doing, the only difference between you and them is that they're doing it and they just started. That you just have to start.
All right, everybody. It is Thursday, November 10th, 2022. This is the Token CEO podcast. I'm Erika. I'm the CEO of Barstool Sports, and I produce this podcast with the illustrious Devin and Mackenzie. They are awesome. We've got a great episode today. So we are talking to Sophia Amuroso, who I'm actually been dying to talk to. I follow her on Instagram. I met her once at this terrible lunch at some women's conference. And I think her story is kind of interesting. I think she just puts herself out there in a way that is really refreshing. And I think her focus on business and women in business is really admirable. So I'm excited to have a conversation with her. After we do that, we will do Q&A. We will have a boardroom conversation. I'm obsessed with Twitter. It's kind of annoying. There's so much news on Twitter and nothing's really being said. It's also just so hyped up. It's ridiculous. But I think that's a worthwhile conversation. We'll do a little bit behind the scenes at Barstool Sports. And then as always, we'll do Q&A and closing thoughts. Before we get into that, let's give a huge shout out to Omega Accounting Solutions. They are our presenting partner. If you have a small business and you want to make sure that your small business gets every possible tax credit that it can, Omega Accounting Solutions is the right partner for you. So what's amazing about Omega Accounting Solutions is they have expert accountants. They're going to go through your books. They're going to help you get your act together so that you can run your business. And best of all, they're going to give you the advantages that big companies have and small companies don't. So they're going to give you the advantage of understanding tax law, tax codes, where you can apply for credits, where you can't, what you're eligible for, what you're not. It's pretty awesome. If you call 1-800-704-2000 or you go to OmegaTaxCredits.com, you can learn more. Call Omega Accounting Solutions today at 800-704-2000 or go to OmegaTaxCredits.com to learn more. All right, so let's jump into it. I had an awesome Zoom conversation, which isn't great to look at, but it's kind of good to listen to, with Sophia Amuroso. So we're going to start with that. So here's Sophia. All right, so Sophia, I've been dying to talk to you forever. I was describing this earlier, but you and I met at I think it was maybe the All Things D, or it was Makers. There was this very forced lunch with I hate when people do this, when they sit you across from somebody and then they're like, you two should talk. And it's what the fuck? You're trying to eat and you don't know anyone around. It's very overwhelming.
Yeah, totally.
But I love your story and your journey, and I follow you on really all social. I think you're a creator. It's funny to me, you're more of a creator than I thought, which I like. And I love your story. I love the business. I want to learn all about it. But can you, for everyone listening to this, just describe your journey?
Yeah, it's so hard to be succinct about it.
Yeah, I know. That's okay.
Yeah. So I'm Sophia Amuroso. I'm the founder and CEO of something called Business Class right now. But I started in 2006 on eBay, a vintage store called Nasty Gal. And built it from 2006 to 2016 to over $100 million in revenue. I originally bootstrapped it to 12 million. We left eBay after the first year and a half, or I guess it was still at that time. And it was an incredible ride. In 2014, I wrote a book called Girl Boss that spent 18 weeks on the New York Times bestseller list and sold 500,000 copies and became a Netflix series produced by Charlize Theron that went for one season, thank God. Really interesting thing to have happen when you're kind of in the middle of your life. A story being told of not that long ago.
Was it awkward?
It was awkward. I mean, I loved the show. I mean, who does that happen to? It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
But I think it was bad timing because I had just left Nasty Gal when the show came out.
Yeah.
And, 140 million people in 193 countries in every language are watching this show of a girl starting a company called Nasty Gal when for the first time in 10 years, I was trying to move on.
Yeah, that kind of fucks with you in a crazy way.
And then I started a company called Girl Boss, and I do some investing, and now I'm building an online educational business called Business Class for Entrepreneurs. And I'm on a podcast called The Crazy Ones. So I'm a co-host on a podcast as well.
That's great. Describe the business model and what it is and how you're helping people.
Yeah, business class I started during the pandemic. Everybody was at home. I had considered online courses for my second business, Girl Boss. We never ended up doing that, but I had watched this kind of like cottage industry of online course creators happening over the years. It's a very formulaic business. There's very much a playbook for it, but a lot of it's really cheesy. And there was nothing out there for entrepreneurs that was by an entrepreneur. There's a couple kind of business courses led by creator personality types, but the only businesses that they've built are like online course businesses.
Doesn't really
I felt like I had a really different perspective, and also as someone who didn't have a traditional business education. So I learned things the hard way, and I know what those kind of knowledge gaps are from having been this accidental entrepreneur who used the original kind of online marketplace to build my business. And business class really speaks to, yes, there are former, students with MBAs who have said business class is better than business school, which is awesome. But primarily for, the people out there who have a Shopify trial account or an idea or some kind of product or a small fashion business, and are not necessarily the kind of pedigreed people that I think in the past we would consider like business people.
Sure. Yeah.
So business class, it's a 10-week program that has 7 flights, which is what we call modules. Everything's aviation themed. So it's a really fun brand because it's descriptive business class, but also I'm dressed like a Pan Am flight attendant in all the videos. So it's like so we have something called the flight manual, which we ship to people,
which is amazing. I've seen you show it. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So well done.
Thanks. There's like 300 pages of worksheets and 8 hours of video. And I do live Zoom calls with different interesting founders and executives every week. And when I say 10 weeks, it's guided over 10 weeks. It's 7 flights, but we have 3 layover weeks for catching up. I know, it's just like endless puns.
So cute. Yeah.
Yeah. But people get lifetime access to the content. So they can come back, and we have a lot of students come back and retake business classes. Their businesses kind of grow and pivot. And then everybody gets access to all of the program content, all of the future live calls that I do, as well as the lounge, which is our app and our community just for business class.
Smart. So there's a lot that's been made out of Girl Boss, which you posted about, I think it was last week. You had, I think, a very raw, kind of honest, I think it was on Instagram post about it. Describe the Girl Boss phenomenon and how you felt about it then and how you feel about it now.
Yeah. Girl Boss is a term that in 2014, when I wrote that book, became what other people kind of was the beginning of a movement. And it did speak to all these girls who related to someone like me, who was a community college dropout from Sacramento, who's at an eBay store. It was a year after Lean In, and next to Sheryl Sandberg, I think it was like Susie Orman, maybe in the business book section, or having written anything. And there's, been all of these kind of Girl Boss, quasi whatever pop books since then. But Girl Boss became this term that was also really hard to trademark and part of the zeitgeist in a way that was like completely out of my control. And it was like Girl Boss pillows and Girl Boss notebooks and Girl Boss everything, which was awesome, to be able to create something. It's nobody's intellectual property.
That took off like that.
But takes off like that is like such a special thing that like I'm really proud of. And it inspired so many women to start businesses. I've had people, and I don't even talk about relationships in the book. I have had people DM me and say, like, your book gave me the confidence to leave an abusive relationship. Like the long tail effects of like a book.
Female empowerment. Yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't even talk that much about being a woman in the book. That's the weird part. But it resonated with them. And of course it was called Girl Boss and it was pink. And over time, it was a simple time when I wrote that book. There was no like crazy man in the White House.
Yeah, this is pre-2016, right?
It was pre-2016. Yeah. And so, I wrote the book from a perspective of a woman who was like on her way up and building this business, and everything had been up and to the right. And, not long after I wrote that book, Nasty Gal, the fashion business I built for 10 years started to, stumble.
Yeah,
and then Yeah. And then in 2016, Trump was elected, and this book that was like a little bit of a naive, story, humorous, some business advice, quasi memoir. The term became, I think, politicized. It was like, I'm not a girl boss, I'm a boss. And I was like, girl boss is just like a way, it's not descriptive.
Yeah.
Whatever. So it's become this word that still inspires a ton of people who are in my DMs all day long, still reading the book for the first time and telling me stories of what's happened after they read the book. But then also this interesting counterpoint that points to, I think, the oversimplification of women's ambition, and that lacked kind of an intersectional approach, largely because it was just written from my own perspective.
Yeah.
And so what you're referencing is this Instagram post I made that I also sent to 120,000 email subscribers of mine, that I also posted on LinkedIn, that I also tweeted the shit out of. And it got a lot of notice because this Silicon Valley, very well-respected, website that reports on like breaking technology news, wrote this week called The Information, wrote this, pre-Halloween weekend kind of roundup. Their weekend content is kind of like fun. It's the weekend edition.
It's a little lighter. Yeah.
So beneath them, because it was like a BuzzFeed style roundup of the top tech themed Halloween costumes for 2022. I don't know if I was ever in tech, because I built an e-commerce business on other people's platforms, but hey, I'll take it. You think I'm relevant? And it said girl boss too close to the sun, and it had Audrey Gelman, who was the co-founder of The Wing, with a set of wings on, like mocked up, and it said, pose as dress up like your favorite disgraced girl boss, like Audrey Gelman, Sophia Amuroso, or Elizabeth Holmes, with a pair of wings that are singed at the end, like you flew too close to the sun. Yeah, like you flew too close to the sun. Like, I'm glad I flew too close to the sun. I mean, now I know not to fly too close, but you can only learn by
that one
trying. What do you want to do? Land on the sun? Like, I don't mean. So like lumping Audrey, being turned into caricatures. It's one thing to be kind of in relatively balanced, often not, like news pieces that have context about the term girl boss, anything like that. But to be put next to like a woman who committed fraud, who put dying people at medical risk. Because like I wasn't like a perfect founder, was just like shocking. And so I screenshotted it and I said, I don't want to be a whiner. I don't want to be like, oh, it's unfair that like I was criticized, or it's unfair. It's just hard to put yourself out there and be like, it's unfair when I still like have a great life and like I'm fine. And whatever. Right. And like the misogyny of these like pieces, these girl boss like kind of roundups of female women, feminism, capitalism, blah blah blah, are really fueled by misogyny. But for me to speak out about that, it's just inviting more criticism. And I've gotten to a point where I kind of just don't care, and I'm ready to kind of burn it down. And I'm like, what else are you going to say about me? You can link to my tweet from another like piece where you talk about girl boss culture, and at the very least my perspective will be like linked back to in whatever your probably unbalanced piece is going to be, which is like at this point completely outdated. Like, I don't use the word girl boss. Like, stop using it. Like, do I have to like write an epitaph? I'm not sure. So it's great people think it's still relevant on that level. But I wrote a really kind of honest story about how that just like fucked up my day. Like, it was mostly just about, wow, things affect me, and I realized I haven't dealt with the trauma of some of the tougher things that have happened in my life. I mean, it's mostly been a pretty amazing life, and that when I saw that piece, I just like drove down the street in tears and like day drank
Yeah.
like
Triggered.
an IPA by myself and like bought a pack of Capri cigarettes, like, and
An
realized I
IPA
have
is like
work to
your
do.
day drink.
I don't
Drink.
day
That's
drink. I don't. It was.
actually
I was at a
that's the
burger.
most disturbing thing you've said.
I went to a burger place and all they had was
Okay.
beer, so I ate a
Okay.
burger by myself and I
And
had
like
an
smoked a
IPA.
cigarette. I think that's a good way to deal with things.
Yeah, but I don't typically day drink.
Um, it's an interesting topic because I think what's so hard about it is the joy that people take in ripping down women who try, right? Like maybe Nasty Girl worked out, maybe it didn't, right? There were things you learned from it that were great. There were things that you didn't, that you, I think in hindsight, you probably been like, oh, I fucked that up. I shouldn't have done that. Same with The Wing, same with all sorts of outdoor voices, Away, like, and it's interesting when male CEOs fail or male founders fail, in the most part, they're not sensationalized. Like we work with sensationalized for, I think, really good reasons. In the same way, Elizabeth Holmes was sensationalized because that was just an sensational, that was a insane mismanagement of capital and trust and all of that. But does it bother you that they still go after that? And do you think you'll ever lose it? Do you think women will ever lose that? Or is it just always, until there's some normalization of women in business, do you think it's just always going to be this way and you have to accept it?
I think there's also always going to be a double standard. And I think because there's so few of us to point at
Mm-hmm.
as successes, there are fewer of us to point at when things don't work out.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot more normal for men to build businesses and fail. So
Yeah.
if you think about the news cycle, like there's just like,
Yeah, there's less
it's
clicks.
not going to make as much noise.
Yeah.
I would like to start a conversation at some point that kind of forces people to think about the consequences of these pieces, because they don't see my DMs on Instagram from
Mm-hmm.
women who are thinking about starting businesses, who are say, I'm watching this happen. I'm afraid to start a business because I don't want this to happen to
Yeah,
me.
to me.
Or in my text messages from the female founders who have been criticized, sometimes fairly, sometimes totally unfairly, that like they're afraid to start another business. They're never going to raise capital again. They deleted their social media accounts because
Mm-hmm.
they they'll never they're living in hiding, like the poor unfortunate souls in The Little Mermaid,
Mm-hmm.
and when I posted that tweet, they were like, thank you so much. Like,
Yeah.
no, none of them, I've gotten hit up by like probably 100 reporters over the last several years asking me to talk about this girl boss crap and what's gone on with these female founders after, I left Nasty Gal in 2016. And I'm like, I don't know if I want anyone else to tell my story. And it puts such a, like, it's like, do I want to put the spotlight on myself again?
Yeah.
Like, am I a martyr
Yeah.
for
Why would
that?
you? Yeah. Why would you subject yourself to
And
it?
none of these women will contribute.
Yeah.
None of them will give quotes. So nobody has any idea what the bigger consequences are to women who have businesses, women who
Yeah.
want to start businesses, and also the women who have been affected by, being called out
Yeah.
in this kind of stuff. So
how did you overcome that in creating, you've created, it sounds like, I think you have a business now. I bet you'll create like 5 other businesses. Like, how did you if your contemporaries who were scathed and scorned and all of that were like, hey, we're out of this, we're not going back into the fray, what is it about you that makes you go back into it?
I have some work to do on examining my motivations. I think like everybody does. Part of it's relevance, part of it's money, part of it's I have a chip on my shoulder, part of it's I'm a masochist, part of it's because I
Mm-hmm.
can. Part of it's because I'm possessed to help founders, whether I'm helping them build their businesses in with business class or through my angel investing. But it's hard for me to kind of differentiate between what could be, the right motivations and what
Yeah.
could be kind of egotistical motivations. Regardless, I'm motivated to do things. With business class, it's not a small business, but I feel like I am playing small in that it's a bootstrap business.
Yeah.
It's cash flow, cash flows super well. Online courses do well. I'm talking to my audience. I'm not broadcasting it. I don't have stakeholders. There are no investors to disappoint. I have 2 employees. I'm not exposing myself to being like a bad boss and someone saying like, pay me $20,000 or I'm going to go tell whatever publication
blah.
that like
Yeah.
culture at your company sucks. Like people are literally just like extort you. So I feel like I'm playing small, even though I'm doing things
Intentionally small.
Because of this. And at some point I will kind of, I think, emerge because I can't not.
Yeah.
I want to be really sure, clear on what my kind of thesis for myself is, kind of personally, spiritually, in terms of my purpose, like what I want to contribute, what I want all of this kind of noise and opportunity to add up to 10 years from now, because I tend to kind of shoot from the hip and do things. And I want to be strategic, and that works, and it's dangerous what I can manifest, but also I want to look back 10 years from now and know that what I did, I at least had some intention to do. I'm putting myself out there more on the new podcast, the crazy ones. Like they have an audience that's not mine. So that's like a new level of like eyeballs that
that's great.
So that's like a little bit of an emergence. But would I start the Sophia podcast and try to build an audience from, I had a podcast for 5 years, Girl Boss Radio, but like, would I do that again? Do I want it to be the Sophia show? No.
Yeah. You're like, I don't know.
Yeah. Do I want to go do a bunch of press and broadcast business class? Like, I don't think I need to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. What's your advice to women, or really anyone, young people who want to make the next move or who are overcoming, what I think is interesting about you is you're so vulnerable and sensitive. You seem very vulnerable and sensitive, but also clearly very fierce and clearly very ambitious. And also, you're a serial entrepreneur. So, from your experience, what's your advice to young people who are trying to overcome something? Could be public, could be private. Then they want to experiment with building and founding things.
I think that you have to remember that the people who are doing what you want to be doing, the only difference between you and them is that they're doing it and they just started. That you just have to start, and everybody has a different starting point, but it's your job to exploit what you have for what you can have. That's all any of us can do, regardless of where we start. And to remember that, there's this Rainer Maria Rilke quote, and I'm not a poetry buff and I could probably read more, but it's no feeling is final. And I think you just have to remember, to have perspective that where you are today isn't going to be where you are in a year. And I like to kind of cast myself out a year from wherever I am when I'm experiencing hardship, and just kind of visualize myself looking back and like laughing at the kind of stuff I used to freak out about, like another website having like a similar design to Nasty Gal's website when I was like, clearly winning or whatever. And then, to just start, especially in you're saying young people, like, go make messes. Don't be attached to what it is that you start. Like, you may have an idea, but if nobody cares about it, like, tweak it. And if that doesn't work, like, you can totally move on. It's not failure. Like, you're going to have a million, businesses and lives in you. Don't, it's not failure if you're learning and you're progressing and you're applying everything that you've learned to everything that you're doing next.
That's awesome. Sophia, where do people find you? Tell people how to find you.
I'm at Sophia, Sophia Amuroso, Amuruso, on Instagram and Twitter, and LinkedIn, whatever is under my name. And business class is at businessclass.co.
That's awesome. What do you think about Twitter right now? Are you Twitter gazing or not?
I'm seeing all the headlines. I get Elon's like tweet notifications. I'm like wildly entertained by them. Just if anyone was tweeting this stuff, I'd think it was funny. I'm following along. I think he's pretty great business person. There's probably a lot to take away from it. I don't want to pay for a check mark, but just like everything else, I probably will if I have to.
That's awesome. Thank you for doing this. We appreciate it. And best of luck with business class. And I love what you're doing. And, thank you for making the time for us.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Okay, it's 75 degrees in New York today, which is real hot, but wasn't 75 degrees this morning, so I have my Travis Mathew jacket. What's awesome about Travis Mathew is they make clothing that's super high quality. It's very comfortable. They're now making it for women, which is awesome. So if you want clothes to work out in, if you want clothes to lounge around in, if you want clothes to ride the train and commute in, Travis Mathew has an awesome selection for you. You can go there. You can go to travismathew.com and use code TOKENCEO for 20% off. And then best of all, if you have your act together, I do not have my act together, but if you have your act together, you can get your holiday shopping done now at travismathew.com. We love Travis Mathew. So go to travismathew.com, code TOKENCEO, you get 20% off. That's travismathew.com, code TOKENCEO for 20% off. All right, so Gaz is joining us. Gaz runs social and distribution here at Barstool Sports. Dave Portnoy, first hire. Well, speaking of, all right, so explain the Twitter situation. Let's just recap.
Start like which part of the Twitter situation you want to bring it back to.
So Elon Musk has bought Twitter.
Yep,
right?
officially.
Laid off 3,500 people.
Getting killed for it.
This place is fat. Getting killed for it. So Twitter, I think he tweeted this weekend that they lose $4 million a day. Like, that doesn't seem to make sense. So what do you think about the layoffs, first of all?
I think that a lot of people are laying people off. We're in a recession, depending on your ask. Didn't they just say Facebook's getting ready to lay off a lot of people as well? Yeah, so the economy's tough. He probably got in there, looked under the hood and said, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Like, we're just wasting
money. This makes
money.
no sense. It's a bad business.
I mean, you do this with us every now and
totally.
then.
Nobody likes to hear it.
We haven't had to have layoffs, but you're like, what the fuck are we doing here?
But nobody likes to hear it.
Exactly. So, yeah, I mean.
So describe, what are you seeing in terms of he's getting killed for it? Because I think this is like one of the most interesting things.
Yeah, I mean, what I've been fascinated about with the Twitter layoffs is more so how like the advertising world is reacting to it. Like a lot of people stopping advertising on the platform because of why.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think anything from what I've seen has changed yet.
Yeah.
Like nothing's done. He's just looking and they're like, we got to pause. We don't know what this guy's going to do.
Yeah.
Like the canceling of Twitter advertising is kind of fascinating to me, how you get there.
Yeah.
And I think even internally we're dealing with people asking like, what are you going to do about Twitter? It's like, I don't know.
It's so
shit
funny.
Post?
Yeah, exactly. It's so funny. So I think the really interesting thing, so it's Twitter, so taking a step back, Twitter is the smallest of the social platforms. It has the lowest ROI of the social
We
platforms.
spend our most time there, which again is a look under our hood.
Stupidly, we are obsessed with Twitter as a company. We tweet all the time. We don't spend money on Twitter, right? It's not like we're paying to advertise on Twitter. We just tweet all the time.
Also, I would say from dealing with platforms, probably the least contact we have internally
is
with the
Twitter.
platform.
Yeah.
Like from day to day, what can we do to grow both of our businesses? And that maybe a lot of that is there's been turmoil for a while there. But yeah,
it's kind of interesting though, because I think like that's what's the issue with Twitter is that Twitter just fell behind. Like Twitter was so behind. I think what's really smart about, whether you like or hate Elon Musk, like what's smart about what he's doing is he's like, hey, this is the town square. This is the melting pot. This is the meeting place for all sorts of angry people, which is pretty much what Twitter is. Mm-hmm. He's also like, this is currently a really shitty business and we have to find other ways to make money, which I feel like I say all the time here. So like, I don't think that's irrational. I think the other thing is the hysteria of advertisers is just, it's almost so predictable. Like, so flashing back to last week, Gaz is slacking me and he's like, oh, we got another note from Berger. We got a note from this person. Like, what's your stance on Twitter? And it's like, what do you mean? What is our stance on Twitter? Twitter has a new CEO.
Yeah.
It went private. It's delisted off the stock exchange. They seem to be laying off people. Like, what is there? I could see if Twitter changed their moderation policies or if Twitter, becomes subscription only or
Elon did something to get canceled. Like, he did something that was so such a lightning rod. He did what, Kyrie did, or like there's something out there where it's like, oh, we got to hold on what we're doing with Twitter. He really hasn't done other than lay people off and say he wants to try to make this into an actual functioning business where he can make money.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's fascinating how people will come to us and asking, like, what are we going to do about Twitter?
It's funny,
It's a distribution point for us. I don't know.
Correct. It's like our fans are on Twitter. We're going to talk to our fans wherever they are. The other thing, which Gaz and I were talking about, which is why I wanted him to come on, is, there's all sorts of reasons to cancel every social platform, right? Like Gaz was saying this, where like, all right, Facebook, Cambridge Analytica, they're stealing all of our data. They're giving it to advertisers. Then who else do you have?
Well, you got TikTok,
which is
like
China
probably,
stealing your
face. I would
face.
say the biggest question what's going on there, like the data being shared with China, and that whole kind of thing. So you can always point at any company and pick something. Like we deal with that. You can point at one point of Barstool and say, well, this is why we can't do something with them. Why are we choosing it right now with Twitter is kind of the interesting thing. But I think every company has their warts. And
it's so funny though too, because it made me so mad on Friday. I was having like a visceral reaction to the advertisers asking about Twitter. Like I was pissed. Yeah. And then I was like, this is just PTSD, because this is what happens to us all the time, which is nobody bothers to wait. Nobody bothers to get the facts. Nobody bothers to understand the situation or ask the question. It's just like this blatant fear. And it's like the fear mongering around the ad business is such a problem.
Well, he had said there was a few people, minority, like a few people, the loud minority. Yeah. That's what we deal with a lot. Yeah. It's a few people making a lot of noise on a place like Twitter or Instagram that makes it feels like that's the reality, when I think 90% of the people that are on there, they don't give a shit. Care. You know what I mean?
Totally.
It's
also like if a business were predicated on Twitter to grow, right? So some of the advertisers canceling, if they needed Twitter to grow or do customer service, they would not leave Twitter because it changed management. Do you know what I mean? Yep. Like that's the other thing that I think I think it's interesting. Like one, I think hopefully I think it's a little bit hypocritical for those partners. But then the other thing is I think I'm confused by Musk, where he wants to make this a more open platform for all different voices. And then he's like, only if you pay, which I think that's where he rightfully should get hammered.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I thought what was, for you kind of brought up a question when we were ripping back and forth the other day, was like, are these brands going to still be active on the platform?
Right. Like, which I bet they still tweet.
That's what I was wondering. I wanted to get the list of them and kind of just go through. It's like, you're saying you're going to stop advertising, but you're going to be continuing to use this place to reach the audience.
When your customer wants you and they're reaching out to you via Twitter, you're going to respond.
Which way is it? It's like, we're not going to give you money, but we want to leverage you in order to grow our business.
Right.
But we just don't want to. It's just an interesting.
It's weird, right?
Yeah, it's very interesting. I don't know. Where do you think it goes?
I think that he introduces a whole bunch of different paywalls and he'll experiment. I think people are saying that there's so many advertisers that have left, it's not recoverable. I don't believe that. I think that's untrue. I think he's going to have this. I think there's a couple of things. He's going to introduce a consumer product that people will pay for. Maybe it's Vine that people have to pay for. They shouldn't have left Vine to begin with. But maybe it's Vine, maybe it's the check mark, which I think is kind of stupid. But the other thing is he's got to make Twitter really perform for brands if he wants brands to come back and pay. And then he's got to make Twitter essential for consumers if he expects them to pay for it. Like the $20 a month for a blue check mark is insane. Mm-hmm. Like nobody's going to pay that. That's just stupid. Who cares? I think making Twitter like private, so like Barstool Sports would have its own Twitter. Maybe they buy Slack. I don't think they have any money to do it, but like maybe they become like what if you just tweeted at each other in a company all day long? Or what if you had a private Twitter? I think he'll think about things like that.
Yeah, I think
that's what I would do.
From where they were, they can't. I almost look. You can't go anywhere but up. So like, 100%. I think he's going to make.
They don't have a video product.
Yeah, they had TikTok before TikTok with Vine, and they blew that apart, which is probably the dummest thing that's ever happened by a company. They could have been TikTok.
Yeah.
And I wonder if they could just reboot that. That'd be great. I would love that.
Same.
I think that'd be good. The best thing for us on like Twitter, when I look at like what's the value, it's like a customer service platform.
Definitely.
Like Dave Portnoy's in his mentions all day, and he's yelling at me because of
people tell us everything that's wrong.
It's like I see when something's wrong. Like if we do something idiotic from Barstool Twitter or somewhere, it's like I'm getting tagged it, and it actually, because we put out 16,000 pieces of content, so it's hard to see everything. Every day. And so sometimes you'll get a tag and be like, oh, okay, it's like our customer service platform. Obviously live, it's the most live. Yeah. Things happen there first before they happen anywhere else. And so there's value in that, but they just haven't been able to create
They've never productized it, and then they've never been able to monetize it. Like Amplify is their product right now, which is like, okay, it's a promoted tweet. I mean, that's really all it is, right?
Yep.
It's just stupid. They should have so many other products in that. You also could do like a private, it could be really interesting on the BD front. Like, how do you tie live sporting rights to Twitter? Like, there's a whole bunch of things you could do.
Yeah. I mean, the sports gambling stuff. It's
definitely.
Like people are like real reaction, real thing. Like the sports gambling side of things is super important in a place like Twitter.
It also sounds like they might have been too aggressive in some places. I bet they probably weren't aggressive enough in others, and you'll see other layoffs coming from Twitter. But now they're saying, oops, like, shit, we needed you back. I think the actual question is like, will those people go back or not? Or are they like, fuck you? If I'm a product person at Twitter, though, right now, that place hasn't been interesting in
it's just been redoing
5 years, 10 years. And now it's going to get interesting. Like the rocket scientists are in there.
Yep.
So I would go back unless, I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know. I've gotten laid off to be like a jilted lover, like a scorned lover type thing.
If you're like,
but you're right. If you were going to be, Twitter's going to do they're going to try a bunch of things that they weren't doing before. So that would be intellectually, I feel like, stimulating. Like our product guys, they love just building shit all the time. And if they're not building new things, it's like, I want to go somewhere else.
Yeah, that's right.
Exactly. So, and it sounded like people were giving him shit for laying people off. He gave them, I guess, like 50% more.
Yeah, he gave them 3 months severance. Yeah,
which they didn't have to do.
Look, I think the other hard thing about this,
I love that people are like shitting on him.
Oh, 100%.
Like it's his company, and everyone's on Twitter like ripping
They're like
him.
using the product to rip him. It's very Barstool.
It's very Barstool where people just like go at
Fuck
Dave
you, I hate
on
that
the blog.
decision. But that's what makes it great. But I think that there's so much. I think there's so much drama. I also think there was just everyone has always said this, that there was so much inertia in the Twitter employee base where they were just kind of like fat and happy, or just fat and righteous or something, which isn't a nice thing to say. And I don't mean it to be a generalization, but like there was a thing last week about like he redesigned some part of the homepage and it took them 24 hours. And if he hadn't been there, that would have taken, 8 months or 6 weeks or, weeks and months. It would have taken weeks and months and maybe never gotten done. So it's also kind of like, I think he's like jolted that company.
Yep. And we hear that we brought on new people from other companies here at Barstool, that like how quickly we move to do things.
Yeah.
We also, in that nature, fuck things up because we're moving so fast, but that's also why we get successful. So,
I want to get back to that more. Like, I have issues with Elon Musk. Like, I think the sexual harassment in the factories, like, I'm shocked that people don't talk about that more, pay attention. Like, that's really, really, really bad. But as an executive who's like coming in and trying to redefine this product, which we live on, I'm excited for that. Like, I think that's a good thing. I think for us, it's like, I think we actually need more of that inside of here. Like, people don't want bad news. They don't want to be told, like, they don't sometimes want to see like, this is the reality. Like, but that is like a really hard conversation to have. And then the second thing that I think Twitter is doing that we have to do too, is that it's like, I had this conversation, like, we don't have anyone here whose job it is to like do consumer insights or like the voice of the consumer. We have consumer insights people, but there's nobody who every day in commerce or, in production is like the consumer. And here's what they want, here's where they want it, and here's how they want it. Like, we have so much data, we don't ever harness that in one place. And I know we have awesome data people. It's not that we don't have it, but it's like this person has a little bit, that person has a little bit, that person, it makes it hard to do things. And I think what Musk is doing is like simplifying and focusing things. And I think we have to do that too.
You're a CEO of Barstool. You've been on boards for a bunch of different companies. Running multiple companies.
Oh, I think that's so tough.
That's what I was saying. So is that going to be a situation where it's like, could that hold back Twitter or hold back Tesla or hold back X, Y, and Z?
Well, I think that's like the whole Jack Dorsey thing, like Square and Twitter. Like, would Twitter be in a better shop if they had a full-time CEO? I would say probably yes. Wouldn't you?
You would. I would know. I'm not. I'm just a social guy.
But that would be like,
but
if you're trying to run, you live the same thing.
Yeah.
You used to run the Barstool handle.
Yep. Now you're running 1,700 different.
Now you run 1,700, and Dave's like, why the fuck isn't the handle?
And there was like 2 platforms, and now there's 12 that we're on or whatever. Yeah. It's like, how do you make that? You got to find the right people, I guess, that you can trust.
You have to have the right people under
right people to do it.
Totally.
I was hoping Dave was going to say something about it.
I was too, but he was busy this weekend.
Yeah, he was gambling.
He would have had something great to say.
I bet you Elon would have gotten the mix. That's why I said, I'm like, if you want to go have something, he just wasn't following it close enough to be able to like put a.
He also was up. He won a lot of money.
He was happy.
So
actually, he was like, I'm at the Breeders, and I was like, all right,
If he was losing money, I think he would have.
If it was like this morning, because he's on fire this morning, he'd be all over it. But yeah, when he was at the Breeders, he was locked in.
What's he on fire about?
Oh, he's just like very engaged with a bunch of people within the company, being like, "This is my schedule coming up. This is where I'm going to be. I'm going to be in Boston. I'm going to be this and that."
Oh, he's alert.
Yeah, he's just very like. Yeah. Everyone's getting text messages from his team, so it's good.
Let's just talk about Rocket Money. Okay, I just went through this actually. So I went and looked. Oh, I deleted my PayPal. That's what I did. So I went and deleted my PayPal, and PayPal doesn't want you to delete your PayPal. So it was like stopping me. So I had to like go down into the depths of my PayPal and be like, what the hell am I subscribing to? It was annoying because I have like 4 different Netflix accounts. I'm paying for this. At West Elm has my credit card, you name it. Most Americans think that they spend around $80 a month on subscriptions, and they spend over $200 plus. So what I did when I deleted my PayPal is I got my Rocket Money app. Rocket Money let me put all my subscriptions in one place, and then it canceled. It makes it easy now when I want to cancel those. It cancels the ones that don't work for me. What's awesome about Rocket Money is it can also find all sorts of things you've subscribed to, but you do not know that you are paying for them. So I was paying some like YouTube virtual fidget blah, blah, blah thing, like that's gone. They also make it easy to cancel, which from experience was a total pain in the ass. So I love that about Rocket Money. You can go to Rocket Money today and cancel your unnecessary subscriptions. And if you go to rocketmoney.com/token, that's rocketmoney.com/token, you can do that right now. All right, we have a big offsite this week.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting to go sit in a conference room for 48 hours,
and what
basically,
do you think about
lock us in. We did this last year for the first time.
Yeah.
I thought it was very productive. I think you learn, when you're not getting distracted by the million different things, you can really just look forward to what are we doing next year, what are we doing the year after that. Some good things can come from it. We have some good discussion topics, I feel like.
Yeah.
It's very corporate, but.
It is corporate, but I think we need it. I feel like we have 2 camp counselors coming. We hired these 2 people to basically give us counseling.
Have you talked about that at all on this?
No. What do you think about Tim and Marianne? Describe who they are.
So we brought in outside counsel, I would say, to just look under the hood at how we operate between departments, how even you, it was basically a place where you could have the freedom of autonomy. Is that the word I'm looking for? Where you could say whatever you want and not be held unfiltered. There's it's almost like you're talking to your doctor and they a therapist. Yeah. And they can't hold it against you in the court of law type of thing. Yeah. So I think there was how many meetings they did? There's 2 people. Are they married?
They're married.
Husband and wife. They run this company where they just go live
out of
in companies.
Massachusetts. They're great. Yeah. I love them.
Yep. They they sat with probably 20, 30 people.
And they're much older than us, which I like. I think that made it also feel kind of safe.
Yeah. They're definitely an older couple, and they were fascinated to hear kind of I think what we do, but I'm sure it was. I think I said to you when you talked about this and we introduced them, I just said good luck. Yeah. That was my thing. It was like the Taken guy, and Liam Neeson. Good luck. How are you going to crack this crazy place?
But I think it's hopefully going to work.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to hear what they say because I don't think there's anything.
They have a lot to say.
Yeah, who do you compare Barstool to?
They're we're a dysfunction junction.
Yeah,
there's so many great things about Barstool. They're you guys are off the charts in so many ways, and then they're you guys are so dysfunctional. Yeah,
so maybe I'll be excited to see that. That's one big part of it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, I think
you're kind of stepping up and taking on describe the revenue idea thing.
Yeah, we're doing a lot I mean, I feel like we were doing a lot this year. The revenue stuff has been important for us, more so, not I want to say more so important than ever, but we're thinking about more things. I used to always just be like, how do we just get more people to know about Barstool?
Yeah.
Now it's like, how do we do that by also like make as much money?
Yeah.
Which is kind of been a great learning experience and stuff. I feel like we still barely scratched the surface on what we can do on that side of things. So,
what do you think about keeping Barstool? Like, I feel like I'm spending more and more time like worried about that. One of the reasons I like want to do the corporate shit and have the camp counselors and all that is that I'm like, we've made it's too hard to get stuff done. Like we're becoming like a little bit bureaucratic where it's like, you got to talk to this person, that person. Like there's not enough clarity about like what you do and what you own. Like I loved my early time at Barstool because it was like, one, I had to worry every day about a very simple number of things, like nobody getting in jail, and two, like making payroll. It was like we made content. We made a simple amount of content. And I think getting back to simple jobs will help us do that.
Yeah, I mean, I've started to see it like, I'm in more conversations with different departments and like the getting things done. It's like, I feel like we had this conversation like 3 times if you're talking to a certain department. It's like, why are we like, we're just kind of spinning our wheels here.
Yeah.
And I think, keeping Barstool has always been the most important thing to me as the first employee with Dave. And like, I even find myself now with Dave, like Dave's in Miami and he's and I'm like, I will kind of fight a lot for Barstool because I care. I was one of the first fans of Barstool. So I get annoyed when I see things that I don't think will align with the brand, whether it's coming from sales perspective, being like, we got to do this for this brand because we need it's like at the end of the day, if we're not authentic to what Barstool is, like people are going to get turned off and they're going to go find some other podcast or some other show or some other hot new brand. Barstool's been here for 18 years. We're still looked at predominantly as a new brand, and that's something that has to happen. It has to continue to stay that way. And I think Penn, with that whole change coming, isn't really going to change much. Like they're just going to be more in the mix, and I think they get that too because
and they want that too. Yeah. It's so funny because it's also like as we get bigger and older, we have to change more. Like I had a conversation with the commerce team this morning, and they're like, "Hey, Chiclets doesn't want to make viral shirts about players anymore because the players complained." And now they're friends with the players. Yeah. And it's like, that's a big change for us. Like, we were never afraid to make the funniest thing.
Dave would rip on people all the time, but he's changed too. Like, the Patriots stuff. Like, early on, he would rip, the Patriots, and now it's like, he's just, a craft guy. Like, and that's fine. It's worked. Yeah. I think, but as a fan of a player or a team, and those guys have relationships and they're friends with them and family, like you adjust to it. I think players come on because they have the ability to.
Yeah, and they feel like it's safe.
Exactly.
So like I get the tension. It's
like,
and
with Pat Bev, like we
totally.
Pat Bev, from the Lakers who we signed, he's sitting next to LeBron James every day.
Yeah.
And we've had opinions about LeBron James. And we'd even asked him, like, what do you think about what we should do from a social perspective when we talk about people that you're probably friends with? He's just like, sling it. Like,
really?
We'll deal with it.
Yeah.
Like, he'll come, like, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But, like, I don't want to put, and I think that's why Pat has been a great partner early on. He's just like, go do you, and I'll make, me, and then we'll cross if I feel like you've done anything wrong. But granted, so it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, guys.
Cool.
All right. You ever going back to Miami? I hope not.
I know I've been here for a month now. No, this has been eye-opening being here for a month, figuring out how to be here more next year as we go. So, yeah.
I thought about your dad this weekend where, and then I'll let you go. So there's this really interesting story about, do you guys know that for all the trains in the world, all the trains, like
trains
there is
on tracks.
One company in Buffalo, New York that repairs the parts.
Oh, it's like my dad.
One family-run business, and I was like, it's just like Gaz's dad.
Yeah.
One family-run business, and they repair all the trains. So they've got to figure out like how to ship train parts to Dubai and get them back. It was super interesting.
Yeah. People probably asking, what did your dad's grandparents invent? Like way back, quickly. It was like basically the hydraulic system for a plow. That makes the plow go up and down, left and right. Like early 1900s, they developed the first.
That's your family.
They developed the first product for that, and they were the only ones that could repair them and all that stuff. People still use them these days. Now, obviously, the plowing is huge, but that was like the first one, and then people came and created their own versions of it. But we were the go-to shop for that.
Interesting.
So that's how the company. Yeah,
it's cool.
Business still exists. I left it for Barstool
18
years ago. My dad said I'd be back in 6 months, and now I'm here. So
now you're like
Yeah, I'm not back.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Okay, thank you, guys.
All right.
All right, Mint Mobile. Mint Mobile is an affordable premium wireless provider with offers starting at just $15 a month. That's amazing. My wireless bill has not been $15 a month. I would love for it to be $15 a month. Their secret sauce is they're the first company to sell wireless service online only. They cut all the costs of retail stores and they pass those sweet savings directly to you. Mint Mobile gives you the best rate whether you're buying for yourself or buying for a family. Families start at just 2 lines. All plans come with unlimited talk and text, high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your existing phone with any Mint Mobile plan and keep your same number along with all of your contacts. If you switch to Mint Mobile and get premium wireless service, you can do so starting at just $15 a month. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and get the plan shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/token. That's mintmobile.com/token. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/token. All right, first Q&A. I've been with the same company since graduating college, 4.5 years. And I have the opportunity to go for a promotion within the company. The problem is that this promotion would require me to move to a different city and therefore change the team that I work with. I want to be forthcoming with my current boss about applying for this opportunity. However, I'm very anxious for this conversation as I've only ever been promoted internally working for the same team, and I haven't had a conversation like this before. I have a feeling that he's not going to take this well, and I don't want to burn any bridges with anybody at the location I currently work at. Any advice on how to approach this conversation with my manager? All right, awesome. One is good for you. Good for you. Go live in a different city. Go work for different teams. Go meet a bunch of people. Go take more responsibility. Go forth, right? So that's awesome. The second thing is that if your boss is not a total loser, douchebag, small thinker, he should be excited for you to take on more responsibility for the company, to do new things, to go to new places, to be a bigger and a more evolved or more experienced person. So what I would say is I would give your boss a heads up and I would say, hey, I love my job here. I've loved working for you. You can kiss his ass a little bit. I've loved working with you. I'm so proud of everything I've accomplished. I love this team. I'm also starting to think about what's next for my life and what's next in my career, and I would love to do it at this company. I'm really interested in this job. I think that's a totally benign way to approach the conversation. The other thing you might want to do is get 15 minutes with your HR person and say, hey, I'm afraid to have this conversation with my manager because I'm afraid he's going to be punitive or I'm afraid he's going to get angry with me. I think that's a good thing to flag. But overall, I think that you should be really confident to say, I love what I'm doing. I love this team. There's also something in this company that I think could be really cool, and I'd love to check it out. And I wanted to be forthright about that. And if he's a good boss and a good manager, he will support you in that. And if he's not, then having the conversation with the HR person is probably a good CYA. Second question. I'm 32 and have advanced very quickly in my career at a big global manufacturing company. I now manage a $1 billion portfolio. Any advice for handling imposter syndrome? I feel like I'm capable of the job, but most days I can't shake the feeling that my age/fewer years of experience compared to my 50 and 60-year-old colleagues could mean that I don't have what it takes or may not have the tribal knowledge built with time to succeed. Fuck that. One, you are supremely talented. If you're 32 years old, if you've advanced quickly and you're running a $1 billion portfolio, you are doing something right. You are not an idiot. So let me just assure you of that. I think the second thing is people bring different levels of experience, different perspectives, different backgrounds, different insights, different personalities to the table at work. just because you're younger. I used to be younger than everybody at work, and I always lied about my age. I always said I was 28 and I was like 22. Like, I lied about my age forever. Now I'm the oldest person at work and I lie about my age and say that I'm younger. So what does age really matter? I think the biggest thing for you is you should suck up literally every piece of knowledge that you can from the 50-year-olds and the 60-year-olds. Like, those people have been around the block. They know shit. They can teach you. I think the only way that you become an imposter is if you think you have nothing to learn. And so long as you open yourself up to feedback, you're confident enough to hear it and receive it, you seek knowledge from those folks, you spend time with them and learn from them, then you're going to crush your job, and they will respect you because, one, you've learned from them and you listen to them. Two, you've brought new ideas to the table. And three, you're proven success at the company. So you got to like shut that little voice in your head, believe in yourself, learn as much as you can, and do as much as you're able. All right, last question. I've built an online business that's grown from 3 employees to 25, and I'm currently doing $500,000 a month in sales and about 25 to 30% growth month over month. Awesome. The coming economy and the tightening of consumer spend is making me worry about becoming stagnant. How do you find and recruit mid to high level talent for such a new company? We started 18 months ago. All right, look, dude, if you're growing 30% month over month, you are decidedly not stagnant. So you gotta I think you have some distortion in your head about being stagnant. Like, if you're growing 30% month over month, that's awesome growth. That's actually hyper growth. That's not stagnation. Now, that said, you probably want to keep growing the beast. You want to hire more people. You want to feed the engine. You want to go into new places so that you can keep growing 25 to 30% month over month. I think the best thing that you can do is, obviously you want to post the jobs that you need. You want to network as much as you can, especially with the caliber of people who you want to attract, or the caliber of companies that you want to attract people from. You got to use LinkedIn. You got to use your own social. You got to use the company's social handles. The best place I've found to find super talented people is from people who work here. So the other thing is, if you hire great people and you're like, hey, we really need someone to take this into a new direction, ask your people, give them a bonus when they refer new employees. That's the easiest way to find great people, because it's word of mouth referrals from people who you trust. You can hire a recruiter. Recruiters are expensive, but they can be pretty awesome, and they can also open up your aperture. I had a hard time early on in Barstool. We didn't have a whole lot of money, so I was kind of reticent to hire a recruiter. I wanted to do all the recruiting myself. And I, like you, we were growing about 25, 30%, maybe even 50% month over month. But I was worried about getting stagnant, and I was worried about only having a fixed number of distribution outlets and ways to make money. And so I was I need new thinking to take us to new places, which I think is what you're saying. I remember doing all the recruiting myself, and the chairman guys were like, you're a fucking idiot, hire a recruiter. And I was like, oh, it's so expensive. But it was one of the single best things I did, because it brought in a partner who opened up my world, and I could continue running the business, and that person was out looking for talent. So you can hire an expensive recruiter who you pay up front, you pay a set big cost to, or you can hire a recruiter who works on contingency, and then they just get paid when you hire someone. So both options can work, but I think the biggest thing is start from within. Use all the avenues and the channels that you have. Show why your company is a great place to work. Show where your company wants to go to, and find people who want to be part of that vision. And then if you need to, find somebody outside your company who can help you. All right, that's it for today. We've got the Barstool Invitational in Philadelphia at the Wells Fargo Center tomorrow night, which will be awesome, November 11th. We have a doubleheader, 2 college basketball games. Should be a great night. Dave, Dan, the whole crew will be there. I think we'll give a great show. This is the first time broadcasting and commenting, as well as sponsoring our own event. So we're excited to see how that does. So check that out, or go to it if you're in Philadelphia, and we will see you back here next week.